We're live, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Yet another live aquatics Q&A with everyone's favorite aquatics expert, Thomas.
I just threw Brian off so hard.
That was amazing. He's got a little scratchy throat, so we made him some nice honey tea to help soothe the throat while we do this. And of course, as soon as he goes to take the first sip, I throw us live. So sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this aquatics Q&A. I see some of you, it's your very first live stream. So welcome. It's so awesome to have you guys here. We're very excited about that. I want to go over a few quick things before we launch into the questions. So everyone knows the way these live streams work. The sooner you get your question into the chat here, the sooner we'll be able to answer it. We answer them all in sequence. So the later you put your question, there's the chance we may not get to it today. So
if you super chat, we try to get to those questions when they come up.
Yeah.
Because we appreciate that. But otherwise, we got to stay in order.
Yeah. So with that said, that's how it works. So if we don't get to your question, sorry, but join us next time and put your question right away, and we will. With that said, make sure you hit that like button. That always helps us, especially right off the top of the stream. So hit that like button if you liked Thomas drinking his tea and my little spiel. That said, also share us around as much as you can. Get more people in on these, and we'll do them more often. Next up, important to know, general questions versus specific questions. This is more general. If your fish are like super sick specifically, if there's a very specific issue with your fish or your tank or whatever, Thomas will do his best to kind of go over some of the possible issues. But if you need really, really in-depth help, I will link an email address that we can help you out at as well. So just...
Yeah, with a lot of those things, it helps if we can see pictures and have more of a discourse rather than just you ask one question and us try to respond to it. So our support team is there for that. And if your question has, you want it to be addressed to me specifically, you can also throw my name when you email support and they will forward that to me.
Cool. That said, I think that's actually about it. We can launch into the questions anytime. We did just get finished. Right before this, we were filming some more more of our React series. We just filmed 2 more episodes right before this.
We did.
Oh man, and they're amazing. More really, really cool tanks. If you're here and you've sent in your React photos to us, we're rolling through them as fast as we can, but we have like 2 million, I think. So we got through a bunch now. So we're pretty much primed and ready to go for this Q&A.
Yes.
Let's
do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so someone was here before the streams, like just before the stream started. Their question has disappeared. I think it just kind of auto refreshed and it disappeared. So I'll ask theirs first. How important is it to remove all the clippings when trimming plants? Having trouble getting them out from under the rim and behind the intakes and outputs, etc.
It's as important as it is to remove. Well, maybe not quite as much, but you don't want any organic material that is going to rot or waste away in the tank to stay there if you can avoid it. So taking them out definitely helps. Sometimes leaving them in, if it's just a single leaf here and there, they'll rot. They'll just turn into mush and rot, and it'll add nutrients to the system that you may not want there, or it may not matter because you have a ton of plants. But if it's like some stem plant that's left over or a piece of moss, it'll just end up growing. If it even gets just a little bit of light, it'll just keep growing and you'll end up with another plant floating on the surface of the water, essentially. So is it dire? Probably not, but I always try to remove everything. I don't want anything floating around or staying in there. If I can get it out and prevent a little bit of phosphorus or nitrate or whatever from coming back into the system and I don't want it there, I just take it out. You're taking it out either through water changes earlier than you were expecting to or by manually removing it. So one way or the other, you got to get it out.
Cool. Next up, just finished the cycle, about to start stocking my Evo 12. Quarantine med suggestions, fish and inverts, and also chemical media to use in the system as a fowler and eventual reef setup. Just as a side note, he says, also so stoked you guys teamed up with Joey recently. We did.
Yes!
The king of DIY. If you guys haven't seen that, we'll link that as well. He says, I always felt you guys got the short end being big box. Really happy to see y'all being recognized by the community. You guys really helped me get started.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think, you know what, you have a point that I guess a channel would be viewed a little bit differently if it is a,
independent creator.
Yeah, so, but what I will say is I'm a hobbyist at heart, and as much as I work for Big Al's on making this channel is kind of like my little love child. So I love Big Al's, and I'm glad to be a part of the Big Al's team so that we can make these videos, but Yeah, man, it's a big box store, but our channel has a hobbyist-driven mentality.
Yeah. Small town.
That's
feel.
just
So thank you. We appreciate that. Anyway, so like you said, just finished the cycle, starting to stock as Evo.
Quarantine med suggestions, fish and inverts. I do not medicate unless I have an absolute need to. There's something that needs to be considered, and that is unless... I know for some fish coming from the wild and stuff that are going to have internal parasites and such, you should be treating them when they come in. But however... if it's from a store and the fish aren't showing any signs or symptoms, I will keep them in quarantine and not medicate unless I have to medicate a symptom that they're showing. The reason that is, and it just means you keep them in quarantine longer so you have more of an opportunity to see any potential things that they may have gotten at the store, even in peak health, that aren't going to become symptomatic for several weeks. And it's because anytime you medicate a fish, that medication takes a toll on that fish's vitality, let's say. So yes, the medication may help mitigate fungus or bacterial infections or protozoas or protozoans or internal parasites. But at the same time, it is also hard on the fish. So I try not to medicate unless I absolutely have to. So I don't really have any good suggestions there because I just don't do that. But, any suggestions? You know what? Just take it slow. And if you quarantine first, it's a brand new tank, so quarantining first isn't 100% necessary, especially if you're going to be quarantining all those fish together. It's the same difference. But just take things nice and slow, add, appropriate amounts of fish at a time. Don't rush it, and you should do just fine. It's fish only with live rock is not any more difficult than in my opinion, than just a standard freshwater tank, other than the fact that you're adding salt. It's one new skill you've learned. That's it. So rock it, and then let me know how it goes.
Cool. My tank is highly planted with 2 small angelfish, 10 cardinal tetras, 90 gallons. Wondering if I could keep cherry shrimp in that same tank.
They're probably going to get eaten. Straight up, those angelfish will probably eat them. So I'm saying no. Not the best idea.
Good call.
But you could try larger shrimp species. Or if you want something that'll stay relatively small, be bigger, or way too big to eat, and hopefully not cause any damage, Mexican dwarf crayfish are pretty peaceful in terms of crayfish. Pom-pom shrimp are also okay, or the flower shrimp, they're sometimes called. They're fan shrimp. They're kind of ridiculous and funny. Vampire shrimp, same idea.
Cool. What's a hardy plant that removes nitrates like a beast? Anubias is too slow growing to attack nitrates.
Java moss, Java fern, guppy grass. Guppy grass is probably the easiest of the bunch. Duckweed. Duckweed has its own issues. Frogbit is okay at it. Sal. There's another floating plant that almost looks like a cat's tongue. It's got like hairs on the leaves. It's kind of like duckweed but larger, and I think it starts with SYL. Sylvania. So that's a light bulb brand.
Yeah, that's a brand, yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. But there's a floating plant as well you could easily put in there.
He's Googling. So in the meantime, how's everyone doing? Everyone feeling good?
Sylvanus.
Oh, okay, good.
Haha. Sylvania. Close enough. So Sylvanus could work as well. Jungle Valves also do an awesome job.
Awesome. Cool. Next up, do you think 18 gallons is too small for black neon tetras? If so, do you have any suggestions for similar fish? Only tank mates are 4 zebra danios and 2 wood shrimp.
No, I think 18 gallons for like a group of 5 or 6 black neon tetras is fine. Black neon tetras get a little bit bigger maybe than neons, but they're roughly the same size as like cardinals. I love them. I did a 45-gallon rimless cube, primarily Java moss, Christmas moss, and I had some Anubias and some other things in there, just easy stuff, Java fern. And I had them as the main schooling fish. I had like 20 or 30 of them. I can't remember how many I put in, but they look awesome. So good choice.
Awesome. Next up, okay, you're not going to like this much.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, for those of you who have been joining us for these Q&As on a regular basis, you're aware of a certain arrangement we made a while ago where Thomas was supposed to bring donuts to every single Q&A we did.
Whoa!
And he hasn't brought any. I think you brought ones before the holidays once that your wife made, which was great. I don't complain. But you were supposed to start bringing them every time, man. And so
why didn't I bring them last time? Why didn't I bring them last time?
Because you were
not feeling well.
Oh, lazy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
if other people said this, someone else said that sounds like an excuse.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It's an excuse.
It's a bad excuse.
I think it's a good excuse. You don't share. Look, friends don't share food with friends.
You don't have to lick you don't have to lick the donuts first before you give them. They come in a box and you hand the box to me, and then I wipe it down with a Lysol wipe, and we're all good. And I have donuts. Darren Kirkbride, he's the one who says this. I hope for Thomas's sake he has brought donuts. You've gotten me all worked up, Darren. He didn't bring them.
I'm just gonna hide behind my mug now.
I thought I was okay with it. Like when he walked in and didn't have them, I was like, you know what? But then I kind of simmered, and now it's all bubbling up again. The emotions.
Thanks a lot, team.
Okay, well, maybe in 2 weeks. We'll check back in 2 weeks on our next stream. If not, then
I'm really dropping the ball on this donut thing. Brian, could you at least remind me?
That's not my job. I might as well go get donuts. Anyway, enough with the donuts. I'm getting all upset. Are Corys more susceptible to swim bladder issues? I've had 3 Corys in the last year, and that's what's killed them each time, though I don't have issues with water quality or any other sick fish.
I've never experienced swim bladder issues in Corys personally, and I haven't seen, like when I see people having issues with Corys, it isn't swim bladder that I normally see. So I'm not sure. But I will fully admit that I don't spend enough time researching Cory specifically or keeping up with Cory fish communities online, because there are a few, to really know whether or not that's a prevalent issue. It's not prevalent as far as what I've seen in my 15 years of working in the aquarium industry. So at store level and stuff like that, I haven't seen much of it. Now I'm curious, though. I'm going to have to do some research.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to start bringing a notepad.
And donuts. But actually, I have a notepad for you if you want one.
Yeah.
I'll try not to spill my
I just want to take some,
beverage.
Sometimes you guys bring up some really interesting questions that I don't have the answer to. And it always makes me feel like, man, I should go figure that out, because they're really good questions.
You don't come prepared, but I do. Here's your notepad.
Thanks, Brian, for this notepad.
No problem, Thomas. We're cool. We're just kidding. Activated carbon, does it suck all that juicy liquid fertilizer?
Not all of it, but it will definitely absorb some of it. Carbon's really good at absorbing a little of a lot of stuff. So I personally won't run carbon on a planted system or a system where I'm constantly adding additives to help the things in that system thrive, because I don't want the carbon to absorb any of it. And really, I only use carbon in instances where I feel like carbon is required. So if I have too many tannins in the water and I want to remove it, or I'm medicating and then at the end of that I have to remove the medication, or there's smelly water because there's been issues with people being lazy and not doing water changes. I don't know who that would be. But if there's a smell of the water, I'll add carbon as well as doing water changes in those instances. But beyond that, no, I don't keep carbon in the system unless I have to. Sometimes in reef systems, when I have a mixed reef, I'll keep some form of chemical media in there all the time to try to combat chemical warfare between the corals. But that's almost the only time. So yeah, it may absorb some, and it probably will absorb some of it. So just discontinue using it unless you have a reason that you have to keep using carbon or a similar chemical media.
Cool. Next up, hi folks. Hello there. Newbie here. Checking out the live stream for the first time. Welcome! Yay! That's awesome. Welcome. Recently a new Betta owner. Made some purchases from Big Al's. Cool. Thank you so much. Looking forward to joining the collective knowledge base here. Oh, there's no question there. You're just telling us. That's awesome. I was expecting a question. Well, awesome. Joe Ted. That's
glad to have you along.
Very glad to have you along. If you do have questions, make sure you put them in the chat very soon so he gets to them. If not, join us for more of these, and we'd be happy to answer your questions as they come up.
Absolutely.
I've got fake plants in my tank. Shall I change it to real? What's going to be better? The tank has a mix of Corydoras, Terras, Swordtails, Mollies, Gourami, etc. It's a 50-gallon.
Okay, so there's a consideration, which is there is a complexity to keeping plants alive. So you're stepping into I'm going to say a different part of the hobby. So not only are we just keeping fish, which I think is the most basic part of aquarium keeping, but if you're going to start also trying to keep plants, there's more to learn. So as long as you're willing to expand your mind and learn some new things about plants, and the best way to set them up, and low-tech plants there's some very simple plants I'll tell you about, then I think it's a great idea, because plants have the benefit of also helping to remove nutrients from the system, like nitrates, which can prolong water changes and make the tank overall more stable and safer for your fish. So yeah, and plants that are very easy, almost bulletproof, and work really well for just nutrient uptake would be things like Java moss, Java fern, guppy grass, vals. Jungle vals are very easy. And, you know, if I didn't say Anubias are good. They just grow slowly, so they have less benefit in that scenario because they take a very long time to uptake things as they grow. But yeah, I think it can be awesome. And we actually did a low-tech planted tank. And at the beginning of that series, I kind of go through the very basics of plants, like what you absolutely need to know. And it is very scientific and sciencey, and I try to touch on everything, but I brought it down to a level that makes it very easy for anybody to absorb without pulling out a calculator and a textbook. So
nobody wants to do that.
I don't even want to do that. And I had to do that to learn the information so that I could dull it down. But yeah, check that video out too. And if it sounds like something you'd like to get into, I think it can be very rewarding in its own right, and it can take your aquarium to the next level. Cool.
Next up, asking the big questions. How do you convince a wife to buy a different house so you can have a fish room?
I ain't touching that.
You are the expert to ask on this.
Yeah, well, marry somebody who likes aquariums?
Your wife does not particularly like aquariums, does she? I mean, she doesn't dislike them.
No, that's fair. I don't know. I think this is like a relationship talk. I think if moving to a new house is something you want to do anyways, and it's a goal for your family, and that's something your wife's on board with, I think all you have to do is kind of, when you're looking at homes, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, where would you be okay in this house with me keeping a few extra aquariums or an aquarium or whatever. Like, bring that up while you're shopping for houses, just so if it is a true consideration of yours, like if this is a goal in life that you have to accomplish, like having a big tank or having several tanks, just bring that up and have a sit-down conversation when you're, getting to that point, and just be like, hey, this is something I'd really love. It would bring me a lot of personal fulfillment for the rest of my life. And it's something I want to share with you because I love you and care about you so much. And I really respect your opinion and need you to be okay with this too. So just tell me where you think in these homes we're looking at, you'd be okay with me having that tank.
And if she says no, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I don't think anybody's ever gotten divorced over an aquarium.
If you have, send us your story. We want to know it.
Yeah.
Email us and let us know that. Yeah.
And just take care of the damn thing, because if you don't, they're not going to be happy.
When it becomes an issue, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Next up, help regarding real driftwood. I use the resin stuff, but want to go natural, and I'm so confused regarding the pros and cons of using real driftwood. How long does it last, roughly? Better for bettas?
Depending on the wood. Wood is different. There's lots of considerations with driftwood, like darker driftwood, like Mopani wood or Malaysian wood, lets out a ton of tannins for a very long time. So you got to be prepared to have carbon running in the system or have a blackwater tank. Depending on the wood, it will last longer or shorter. The shortest lived driftwoods, like the bleached beech woods and stuff that you often see like mounted to plates and they've got holes drilled out in them, I find that they don't last much past 5 years before they're really disintegrating. And although it'll just be the outer level, it gets so soft and it just constantly flakes off that you find tons of wood particulate in the filter, on the bottom of the tank as mulm. But if you use harder woods like Mopani, I find it takes, Malaysian driftwood and some spider woods, it takes so long for it to start breaking down that you don't ever really notice. And it could be probably upwards of 10 years. I've never had a piece of wood in a tank, I think, longer than about 7 years. And that was nonsense by the end. It came out of the tank because it was the number one thing causing waste in the tank. But that said, I think driftwood can be great. I love using natural elements in the aquarium. I often use natural driftwood, and I also often use natural stone. So just find a wood that you really, really like, read up on it, just consider whether or not you're willing to deal with tannins in the water, and whether or not that wood you're looking at is going to put a lot of tannin in the water. And then, yeah, you just make an educated decision from there. I'm pro driftwood, personally.
Cool. Just got some Dwarf Gourami. Any tips?
Yeah. Give it a good home.
Okay.
No, honestly, they're not horribly difficult. Just do some research on dwarf gouramis in general and know what parameters they're going to require, and just set the tank up as best you can to meet those parameters. I wouldn't worry a whole heck of a lot about it, only because a lot of these fish are bred in captivity. They're used to city water and stuff like that. So whatever parameters you have, likely what your aquarium store also has, you can always double check with them, and then the transfer should be easy. You may not even have to do anything to your water. Just let the tank cycle first.
Cool. Just so everyone knows, my page refreshed and some of the questions are poof gone. So that said, if your question, just put your question in the chat again and we'll get to it. Next up, I have changed the water and cleaned the gravel, but I'm going to assume that's part of a question that no longer appears here. So ask that again. We'll get to it. What fish can I put with my, what's an HMPK Betta?
Half moon placat.
Oh, cool. I guess so. In a heavily planted 7.5 gallon cube.
I'm guessing that's half moon placat. I'm not a beta expert at all. Just FYI.
That sounds
so. If I nailed that, tell me, and if I screwed it up, tell me what it is. But I think it's half moon placat. I could be totally wrong.
Okay.
What was the question?
Sorry. The question. I'm in a million places right now. The question is,
what fish can I put
in a 7.5?
Not a lot, honestly. You could try dwarf cories or something as a bottom feeder, because they tend to stay out of the beta's way. The beta doesn't pay much attention to them, or something that's going to move a heck of a lot faster than the beta, so like zebra danios. But 7.5 gallons isn't a ton of room for 3 or 4 zebra danios to be zipping around, and that could stress the beta out. Maybe not, but yeah, I would say cories. Just make sure you have sand or a soft substrate, because it's better for their barbels. Okay.
Cool. Hello, I have a 55 gallon with Ranchu goldfish filled with Anubias, sometimes with nitrates. Sometimes the nitrates range 40 to 80. Does adding liquid fertilizer and thus more nitrates, is that harmful? Alternates? Fertilizer without nitrates?
Yes. So if you want to add, if you have really high nitrate, your plants are probably looking for things like, unless you test for phosphates, which you should, just so you know whether or not you have high phosphates as well, because then you could just get the fertilizers separate and add them yourself in the recommended proportions. But you would want phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, and iron, essentially. So if you already have a ton of nitrate in the system, adding more nitrate is not going to be a good thing. So you would want those other elements separately and add them in recommended proportion. Every manufacturer's got their own recommendations on the bottle, and you can kind of use your own interpretation of how densely planted your aquarium is to judge how much of that fertilizer should be going in. But don't use a general fertilizer that has more nitrate or nitrogen, because you already have a lot.
Cool. Do you recommend placing plants with golden fish?
No! Any fish that is the color gold will reflect light that will murder the plants. No, goldfish, I'm assuming you meant goldfish, are herbivores, and they will often just use your plants as their personal salad bar. And then you will not have plants, because they will have salad barred them. The only plant I can think of you might even try is just Anubias species. They have very rigid leaves. They're harder and less palatable, physically harder and less palatable. But I wouldn't be surprised if goldfish took their time and just munched through those too. So yeah, don't give your fish salad unless you expect it to disappear.
Cool. Will well water hurt your fish?
Depends on your well water. All wells are a little bit different. You need to test your well water and see what's in it, and then you'll know whether or not it's okay for your fish. Or better way to put it is, what fish are best for your well water. If you have very soft water or very hard water, low pH, high pH, that sort of thing. So,
Darren, who was the one who got me so worked up, just sent us a super chat saying, Brian, have some donuts. Do not share them with Thomas unless he suggests tank mates for small ATM, BP, and Senegal beachier. 5x2x2 foot tank. Thanks.
Huh.
Thank you, by the way, Darren Kirk.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you
so
chat.
much. And I feel a little better about this whole donut situation.
I'm going to say, ooh. Why don't you try mixing in some other Bashir's in with them, or Bitchers, or Polypterus, I think is their Latin name. Polypterus, like maybe like Polypterus palmus, or Ornatus, Ornate. I would honestly just. I'm a big fan of Bitchers, believe it or not. I used to have a ton of different oddball fish, and I really enjoyed them. But yeah, try looking at collecting some more Bitchers. They're too cool, and when you compare them side by side, it only adds to how gnarly and ancient they look. Beyond that, if you want something that swims around a bit more, clown knives, they're nasty. And they get massive.
How big?
5 foot by 2 foot, 2 foot tank would be okay for a single one. Like 24 inches.
Wow, all right.
They're massive. They take a long time to get that size, but they are a lot of fun. They're funny. During the day, they're dopey, and they don't look like they're dangerous at all. But when the lights go out, feeder fish will not survive.
Oh, man.
They just, all of a sudden, they turn into hunters. It's crazy.
Terrifying.
And they'll just like stare something down like a sniper, and then out of nowhere, bang, it just disappears. They just like swim across it. You would never expect it. The first time I saw one eat, I was like, this is the dopiest looking fish. Like, it's not doing anything. I put in a minnow. It's like swimming circles around it. That night, all I hear is, and I look at the tank, and it's just that knife is there and just glitter coming out of its gills.
Oh
I was
gosh.
like, holy.
Oh, man.
Who would have known?
The dopey thing's a big act.
I
All right.
digress. Darren.
Yeah, thanks
You're
so much.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much. And now you get to share the donuts. You answered this question, so I'm going to go get some donuts with that, and I'll share them with you for answering this question, I guess. So thank you so much. And guys, again, if you want to use the super chat function, feel free, and they'll jump to the front of the line. With that said, we'll jump back here to what kind of fish can live with turtles?
Not much, unless it's way too big for the turtle to even try to eat. Just because turtles will often, depending on the species, often just try to nip at whatever's around them. That said, I know more than a handful of people who have gotten feeder fish like rosy red minnows, for instance, and kept them with their turtle and act as kind of like an ongoing food source, because some of the minnows, the turtle won't eat for whatever reason, made friends, and they breed, and then there's more minnows, and then the turtle starts eating the babies instead, and so on and so forth. But you just got to consider anything they can fit in their mouth, they're probably going to try and eat.
Cool. Is 29 gallon a good first tank? I got one!
It is. It's a great size.
It's going to have to be. You got it.
I think anything between 20 and 55 gallons is a pretty good first tank. In fact, I have a video we did on how to choose an aquarium.
Where is it?
And if you want to see my general thoughts on that subject, which I think you nailed it. For a first tank, 29 gallons is a great size. Yeah, you can watch that, and it'll kind of tell you why I think things are the way they are when it comes to aquariums and sizes and stuff and things.
Yeah, let me link that. Let me find that guy.
That was the
link.
least accurate description of that video I've ever.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but again, people can kind of go and check it out. How to choose an aquarium. Okay, guys, so that's linked. Feel free to check it out if you haven't. It's a solid vid. Next up, how often should I do water changes on a 36?
As often as necessary. Test your water. That's the real answer. The rule of thumb answer is 25% once every 2 weeks if it's a regularly stocked aquarium. But you should test your water, because testing your water weekly will show you how much nitrate you're getting in the water every week, essentially. And you can do some quick math to figure out, based on the size of the water change you do every 2 weeks, how and what the reading is every 2 weeks, how much you're actually removing. If nitrates are slowly creeping up a little bit every 2 weeks, obviously you're not changing enough water, or there's too much nutrient in the system, so on and so forth. But yeah, a little you gotta test is the real answer. You gotta test. Everybody's tank's different.
Yeah. Guys, make sure you hit that like button, please. We're only, like halfway through this, so make sure you hit that like button. We'd really, really appreciate it. Next up, this question. This is a very, very, very broad question, very vague. So there's no definite answer you're gonna be able to give, but maybe you give the top 3 reasons. Why are my new fishes dying? Why, for someone, I'm gonna assume they're new. Why would what are some of the top reasons new fish die when you get them if you're a newbie?
Okay, so the number one reason is your tank wasn't cycled. There's ammonia being produced, and it's killing the fish because there's nothing to remove the ammonia. That's the number one reason people lose fish in their aquariums, especially if it's a new tank or new fish to a tank. So that would be my guess. That said, I have no idea. That is so incredibly vague that it's really hard to touch on. You could have not given them enough time adjusting to temperature. So usually we float the bag in the tank or drip fish in a separate container so that the temperature changes to what the temperature is in the tank so that they slowly come up or down in temperature. If it happens like that, they can go into shock, and temperature shock will kill fish very quickly. So that could be another reason. Your fish could have been sick from the store. That could be another reason, although that doesn't really explain why they're all of a sudden dying. If they weren't in peril in the store and then they're all of a sudden in peril in your tank, it would lead you to believe it's something to do with being moved to your tank. So whether it's the tank itself or trauma on the trip or whatever it is. But yeah, reach out to our support team. You can even, like I said, you can direct the email to me specifically, and I would love to help you try to figure out what went wrong and how to prevent it in the future so that next time you get fish, you have more success and you can enjoy them.
Yep, I've linked that support email in the chat. It's changed from before. For those of you who've been around, it's usually been support@BigAls, blah, 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 blah. Now we've changed that to questions@bigals.com. So if you guys have any in-depth questions on your specific fish or an issue, make sure you email questions@bigals.com, and our team, including potentially Thomas, depending, will be able to take more time and hopefully help you out.
Yes.
I just made a clay replica of my tank. Just saying.
Awesome.
Why not? Also a question: is there a danger in over decorating your tank?
Yes. There's a couple potential. There's a couple I can't talk. Dangers. Number one, detritus traps. So if you have a lot of stuff in the tank, a lot of fine artificial plants, a lot of things that have holes and caves and texture to them, you can trap a lot of detritus that you otherwise aren't really getting out when you do your standard water change, not without extra effort, like waving your hand at the ornaments to try to blow dirt out of them, or having a power head to gently blow on everything, or removing it all or moving it around when you do water changes. You can get a lot of extra detritus that's going to lead to potential nutrient issues. The second one is that if you have too many ornaments and the species of fish you are keeping need more free space to swim or are sensitive to bumping into things. In that instance, having a lot of ornaments in the tank or a lot of decorations can be basically just like a gauntlet, a minefield. You're putting like goldfish, for instance. If you have a lot of ornaments that have sharp holes and stuff, and goldfish aren't the brightest, and they try to swim through things they don't necessarily fit into, or they bump into things as they swim by, it can mess them up. They can tear fins, especially if they're long flowing fins. So yeah, you're gonna have too much stuff in there that they can't avoid bumping into stuff, and then it hurts them in the long run.
Think about your own living in your own home. You don't want to overcrowd with stuff and be bumping into something everywhere you go. You need some space to move around.
Exactly. You don't want coffee tables everywhere. You're gonna end up with really messed up shins.
Yeah. No good. No good. Cool. How do I get algae off my silicone plants?
Silicone plants? I would probably just take them out and use something like Seachem has a algae sponge that actually works really well on everything I've used it on. And it almost looks like a Mr. Clean magic eraser, but without bleach and stuff, I guess. They work really well. Also, the Python algae mitt works really well. Manual removal is pretty much the only thing you're going to be able to do to get it off silicone plants. You could try a bleach bath, but I have a bad feeling it would probably affect the silicone in a way you wouldn't want it to. Possibly like sap color from it or something. Yeah, manual removal is probably the safest way to do it.
Not super fun, pretty tedious, but
happens.
Got to do it.
Yep.
Before we continue doing questions, I'm dying to tell them a little bit about our plan, our plan to grow. Like just a little bit, like a teaser. Should we or should we not?
Yeah.
Hit them with it. Okay, hit them with it.
Okay, so guys, we're getting closer and closer to I think it's the first big YouTube goal that any channel could possibly have, which is 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that YouTube really acknowledges.
Yeah, and it's something that we've been kind of striving for the last little while, ever since we hit about 50,000 subs, I think.
Oh yeah, that really started making us like,
yeah, we're eyeing
that goal of 100. We're like, okay, let's get to 100.
That's when we really were like, we're onto something. Like, obviously we're doing something right. You guys are enjoying it. We love what we're doing, and it was kind of like validation for us to kind of just push and do more and more. So, anyways, I have this grand idea that I wanted to do a really big giveaway, I guess, at 100,000 subs. So soon we will be announcing a giveaway that I really want as many people to be able to benefit from this as possible. So we're doing it a little differently, I think, than a lot of people might do a giveaway. We're trying to make it a little bit more fun. I'm not going to tell you the details on that, but very, very soon we're going to be talking about a giveaway where, giveaway, where we're going to have a lot of fun.
And we're really trying to make it like an all caps giveaway. Like, not just, okay, here's a filter for, we're looking to get some serious ammo behind us here on this one. So what we need to do, guys, before we really, I think, launch into, like, we're going to give you guys more details as we go about what the plan is, what we're going to be giving away. But the sooner we get to 100,000 subscribers, the sooner we're going to be able to just start giving stuff away, just throwing stuff at you.
Yeah.
So maybe now is a really good time to share our channel, let people know, because again, the sooner we do it, the sooner you could win stuff.
Yeah.
So
and like I said, I want as many people to benefit as possible. I'm not talking like not 10 things to give away, not 20 things. Like, there's going to be
there's not going to be like just one winner and that's it.
There's going to be lots of winners. There should be more than. The number I want to hit is massive, but let's just say it's a high number.
Yeah, we want a lot of people to be winners. So with all that said, anything you guys can do to help us grow to that 100,000. I mean, we're already on track, which is great. It's going to take a few months, though, at least for us to get there on our normal growth. So anything you can do to help us would be great.
Yes.
So with all that said, we're excited. Hopefully you guys are too. Okay, next up. Let's get to more questions. Looking to start up an Oscar tank, again, after being out of the hobby for a decade or so. Any suggestions?
Oscar tank, hobby for a decade or so. For keeping Oscars, the hobby hasn't changed a ton. There's a lot of really great canister filters that can help make maintenance a little bit easier, because Oscars are pretty waste-heavy fish. If you're going to do a couple Oscars, do at least a 90-gallon tank. The more space you give them, the better it is for them. Not only that, but the less maintenance you're going to have to do, because they're going to foul the water a lot less quickly. And if you wanted to, you could even go with an overflow system and a sump, which would add not only a ton of space for filtration, but also has the benefit of increasing the water volume and giving you a place to stick all of the equipment instead of inside the tank with the Oscars, where they might be able to break it, like heaters and stuff like that. You can stick that down in the sump where they can't get to it, and it keeps the system looking really clear. It also, with an overflow system, you won't have any kind of protein slick on the top of the tank, because it's constantly falling down the overflows. And slow and steady wins the race, man.
Awesome. Next up, what's your take on having more than 2 clownfish in a 36-gallon?
Don't do it. 36 gallons isn't really big enough for a harem tank, because the number you'd want to hit is much higher than what I believe that tank's going to be able to sustain. So I would say a pair is your just a pair. Don't go nuts. It's going to be tough. It's not going to work well, I'll tell you that. And even if it works well for a time, it usually will at some point, not even that far away, end with usually another fish not surviving. So, 2 clowns only if they're a pair.
And I'm going to, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I'm going to link you to our video on clownfish care that we did not that long ago. Kind of walks you through some of the basics you need to know. So that will be useful to hopefully a few of you. Next up, let's scan through here. Let's see a lot of advice. A lot of you guys helping each other out in the chat here. Yeah, I love to see that.
I love the community feeling that we've got going on. It's the best.
Yeah, really cool. Robert L.U. Joker. What aquarium fish would taste good on pizza? I wonder if people
keep anchovies in aquariums. Probably at public aquariums.
Yeah.
Still counts. Okay.
Anchovies. Okay. Joking, he says. I decided to get 2 Bala Shark and 4 Rosy Barb and 1 Bristlenose and Nearite snails in my future 55-gallon. I know 55-gallon will not be big enough.
Yeah, probably not. For the Bala Sharks, at least.
How much? What do they need?
a pair of Bala Sharks, I'd say at least 75 gallons. Like 55 is not far, but they could use more space. I would love, like, honestly, I think they'd probably do best in like a 125 or a 135. Like a 6-foot tank. Even a 5-foot 120 wouldn't even be the worst, but more space would be better.
All right. I'm not going to read that one, but you can read that. That's pretty great.
Yes, perhaps they may.
Just in case.
We're in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Bettas and neons would work. Oh, okay. Again, more advice from everyone. That's great.
Water Sprite's actually a great, easy plant for sucking up nutrients. Anyways.
Hello, how often can you change a carbon filter?
Oh, probably not too often. Not often enough is what I meant. So carbon, realistically, once the pores are saturated, is essentially toast. It can't purge that stuff, and once it's saturated, it can actually start trading out one pollutant for another and kind of leaching crap back into the tank that shouldn't really be there. So carbon should be changed at least once a month, bare minimum. Carbon, in many cases, expires well before that, as early as 1 week. So if you want to be proactive, changing carbon weekly, best case scenario, especially if you're using recommended amounts of carbon and not overdoing it, not putting more carbon than is required for that tank. If you do tend to go heavy on the carbon, you could probably leave it for a month. But somewhere between 2 weeks to a month is probably your month is bare minimum. 2 weeks is great. And every week is astounding if you think your tank's actually making it expire that quickly.
My first time live. Hey, hi, welcome. Awesome to have you here. Can I add Seachem Prime with Seachem Stability together in an aquarium? I like your videos. Very educational.
Yes. I wouldn't pour them through each other or anything, but add your Prime, and then on the other side of the tank, or after a minute, add your Stability.
Why wouldn't you put them together? I mean,
I don't know if there would be an effect, but you've got beneficial bacteria in stasis in one side and water conditioner on the other side. Which smells like sulfur. So I don't know why you... What are you trying to make? Brian's like, ha ha ha, a new species is born.
It just seems efficient. I don't know. For some reason, let me just pour these together. I don't know why.
I'm guessing there's a reason they're not bottled together. So.
Yeah, I guess so. Hey guys, I currently have an issue with pest snails in my 20-gallon aquarium. I think they came in on some plants, but I don't know what to do. Do you have any solutions?
Probably bladder snails or something. What I'm using for my bladder snail problem is assassin snails. Because if you have one snail issue, you should just add another snail to solve the issue.
Fight snails with snails.
Yeah, why not? Some people will purposefully culture snails in one tank and then get like pea puffers or something in another tank and then use the snail problem in the one tank to feed the pea puffers in the other tank. I wouldn't necessarily recommend pea puffers as a solution to a snail problem, but assassin snails is a great solution. Loaches can be great as long as you're prepared to care lovingly of the loaches and not just use them as a means to oust the snails. And that's like yo-yo loaches, clown loaches do a pretty good job, zipper loaches probably do a pretty good job, zebra loaches maybe, I don't know, boatia loaches in general.
Okay, cool. Awesome. You know what I was thinking? By the way, a lot of people say they watch this. Like, if they can't catch it live, they watch it while they're doing water. They listen to it while they're doing water changes, like that night, which I think is great. Like,
That's
I think
amazing.
It's pretty cool.
I was gonna say I can't believe we're that entertaining.
Yeah,
it's like aquariums can be a pretty dry subject at times, so I find it fascinating that people just like listen to it in the background.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, but because of that, I thought maybe it might be kind of cool to turn this into take the audio from this and turn it into a podcast. I've been thinking that for ages, for a long time. Maybe to take this audio and turn it, or even maybe produce a dedicated pod. But I think for now, start with this, turn it into a podcast. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just let us know in the chat, just so I know how much work I have to do after we're done this today.
I think this episode would have made a good podcast. It's been pretty funny.
I think it'd be good. Yeah, you know what? Think about it. Let me know what you think. I'll see if I can make that happen. Next up, Jungle Val Driftwood Sand recommendation for... you know what? If this gets to 100 likes, I'll turn it into a podcast. How about that? Get us up to 100 likes, podcasted. Jungle Val Driftwood Sand recommendations for... 6x2x2 Jungle Val Driftwood Sand recommendation for companions for Geophagus.
Geophagus.
2 male, 4 female, and 15 panda cories, I guess. I mangled that.
Well, geos are pretty forgiving, and they're they're cool fish in that they don't really harass anything else. They're very peaceful for a pretty decent sized cichlid. Just all kinds of stuff you could do. You could do giant danios. That's what I did in the 265. I did giant danios, 6x2x2. That's a lot of space. What about filament barbs or mascara barbs? Those are awesome. They get a decent size. They're pretty peaceful, swim around until they get to breeding size, and then they just make a mess of each other. They don't really harass anything else. Tetras, some schooling barbs would be nice. It's subjective. Lots of stuff. It's a peaceful tank. Nothing in that tank is going to really be problematic. And as long as you put another peaceful fish in with them, you can pretty much do what you like. Why don't you get like a big school of like Bosmani rainbows or something?
Why don't you? You should.
Rainbows are awesome. Yep.
Cool. Top 3 tips on preventing algae in a new setup / existing setup.
Don't leave your light on for more than 6 to 8 hours a day, especially if you don't have live plants. And if you can, just leave it off until you're home to enjoy them, and that will help prevent a lot of algae. Keep up with your water changes. Don't get lazy and let your nutrients get out of whack, and that will help with algae. And even with clear glass, if you have a magnetic algae scraper, I mentioned this in a previous video on things to do with something or other. Algae, I don't remember which video it was.
The
maintenance video?
Top 10. Was it maintenance or was it top 10 ways to get rid of algae?
Maybe it was. Who knows? Anyways,
that's
a good video. Anyway, well, I don't watch my videos very often after I've posted them.
You watch them. You do.
All the time.
Yeah.
I am so vain. What do you think I do every night? Me and my wife sit down and we watch our videos with a bowl of popcorn.
Honey, watch this.
Look at this part. This is my favorite part of me.
I was so funny right there.
Oh, yay. That's so awkward. Just scrape the glass down even when it looks clear. It takes 10 seconds every day, and that'll prevent a biofilm, which can be algae after a short period of time. And those are my recommendations.
Cool. Next up, thank you so much, Kirby86.
Yay! Thank you, Kirby.
Yeah, thanks. He asks, or she asks, whomever it may be, will Nitrate 5.0 plus stall the cycle? Water change? Wait? What should they do?
I would wait. It's a decent reading. I would wait and just give it some time. Like, sometimes you'll see ammonia, you don't really test nitrite, and you just see nitrate, and that's when you know ammonia 0, you have nitrates in a good number. That makes sense given how much ammonia you had previously. You're like, it's over. Sometimes it'll hang out in the nitrate form for a while, but if you're really worried about whether or not it's going to convert to nitrate or if it's taking too long, before you do a water change, just try adding more beneficial bacteria. Maybe try a different brand from what you've already used. If you haven't used anything, just try some, because that will often add the required bacteria to make that jump, because it's different. If I understand the science correctly, there's different species of bacteria that are included in beneficial bacteria. We make it sound like one thing. It's thousands of bacteria and multiple species of bacteria, burgillions of bacteria, thousands of zeros on the end of the one is really what I meant. And different species, and they kind of all aid in getting ammonia to turn into nitrate. So add some of that or more of it, and that'll helpfully bridge that last little bit rather than doing a water change.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kirby86. We really appreciate it. And guys, we are starting to run out of racetrack, so if your question is urgent, you can always use the super chat and we'll fast track it. Otherwise, we will keep going down the list. We got another one here. Let's see. This one is from Sebastian Leo Foring. Wow, thank you so much, Sebastian.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very, very nice of you. Hey, Thomas.
How's it going?
How many fish can I get in a 29-gallon tank so I know if I got too much in it? At the moment, I have 38 neon tetra, 20 pygmeus, 20 Amano shrimps, and 2 Ancestris cirrhosis. I have a Tetra EX 1200 filter, by the way.
If you have a heavily planted tank, that's not the worst, but that is a lot of fish for 29. So I think if you're currently getting decent results in terms of how much maintenance you have to do, and you're still keeping water quality, I think you're in a comfortable spot. Don't change it. Don't add anything. If you're finding things are starting to get a little heavy, it's because that's a lot of fish. It's not, it's the high end of acceptable. Let's say that. I don't think you're pushing, the realm of possibility for a tank to coexist in a comfortable way in terms of maintenance and making sure the water quality is stable. But you're on the line. You don't want to go much past it. So if you're having great results with that, awesome. I know what it's like to, have a beautiful group of schooling fish, and you don't want to take any out because they look amazing together. But they are going to get a decent size, right? I think the largest cardinals and neons I've ever seen were over an inch, maybe just, but they were good size. So if you can imagine, that's a ton of fish. But if you ever plan to upgrade, you definitely have no issues right now. But 29 with 38 neon tetras that have potential of getting about an inch, along with the other fish, that's going to be a heavily stocked tank. But if you have live, like I said, if you got a lot of live plants, you're probably not going to have any issues because they don't have a ton of bioload for their size. Okay.
Cool. Sebastian Leo Forning, thank you so much.
That's amazing.
Really, really, really appreciate it. Next is Mike Okubo. He asked, do you guys sell Big Al's branded t-shirts or hats? I like shirts, hats, and repping brands and creators. Mike, that's a very good question. We do technically have them. We don't. I think they're listed on our site, but they've been out of stock for ages.
Yeah,
we're going
to look into that for you,
Yeah,
Mike.
there hasn't been a huge demand, so I think they stopped kind of refilling those and having them on the site. But we'll look into it for you.
Absolutely.
And at the very, very least, try and get something out to you.
Yeah.
Because, this one I picked up from our warehouse. It's for all our staff. But I'm sure we can make arrangements or something. Or if people are interested.
And I think we have hats for sure.
Yeah, I know the hats are on the site, but they always say out of stock. But we'll look into it for you because it'd be awesome if you want to rep some Big Al's gear. I like it. I wear this thing just for fun sometimes, not even for just these live streams. So Mike, thank you so much. We will look into that. Thanks, we really appreciate it. Next up, someone by the way said that they listen to us in the car sometimes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. A lot of people have said yes to the podcast, and then they're saying that they listen to us in the car. I'm like, that's pretty great. But we haven't reached 100 likes yet, so I'm not sure if I'm going to podcast it up yet. We'll see. Got to get to 100. Next up here, my driftwood keeps growing algae on it. I physically take it off, and it'll grow back within 2 days. Would the algae video be the best thing to point them to right now?
It'll help to some degree, but driftwood is a huge friend to biofilm. And biofilm has a habit of having algae. And the other thing is sometimes driftwood has nutrient trapped inside the wood. Wood is porous, and it is an organic thing. So the wood itself could be helping to fuel the algae that grows on it. Driftwood will often get algae on it over time, so don't expect it to stay pristine forever. Having some algae eaters that like to hang out on things like wood would help. Some wood-eating plecos can sometimes help with that, but also at the detriment of layers of the outside of wood over time. So, yes.
Cool. Someone says, when you streamed on Wednesdays, I used to listen while I picked up the kiddo from school.
Nice.
That's amazing. What is the best substrate for a beginner?
Ooh, I think standard pea gravel is the best substrate for a beginner. Honestly, it's just easy to work with. It works very well. Like every gravel tube on the planet, like gravel siphon, is designed around working specifically with standard pea gravel. So it works very comfortably. It looks nice. It doesn't allow too much food to get trapped inside of it. Sometimes when you use larger like jelly bean size gravel or bigger, food goes right to the bottom and gets stuck in there pretty quick. So yeah, pea gravel.
Cool. Nikki Astra just asked us. Thank you so much, Nikki. That really helps us. How to get rid of fungus on an eye? Levels are good?
Chances are it's a secondary infection, probably from the fish bumping their eye if it's on the eye. Are you positive it's fungus? If it's just a haziness, that often happens with eye injuries. Fungus would be sticking straight out of the eye and look kind of like cotton. Send me a picture to our questions@bigals.com.
I'm linking that in the chat as we speak.
I can help you through email figure out exactly what it is and a way to treat it. I know where we are, the use of medications is going to become much more difficult.
Right, yeah.
Because of new regulations limiting what medications can be purchased at pet stores. But we will work with you in your area and see if we can get you the right answer. There are lots of medications to treat fungus or bacterial infections that are secondary infections to injuries like eye injuries.
Yeah, so definitely hit us up.
Yep.
Next up, one of my Amano shrimps has grown. Oh, and thank you very much, by the way.
Yeah,
Seriously, we really do. It helps us so much when you guys do that. So thanks. One of my Amano shrimps has grown to a fair size. I've noticed that it is starting to pick on one of my male guppies. Do you have any suggestions on what I could do to calm the situation down?
No, that can happen. If you have a lot of live plants in the tank, I find it, this is what I'll say. I find Amano shrimp will do things like that less often if they have a lot more hiding places or things to do in terms of cleaning, because they like to clean algae and stuff off of plants. They'll spend a lot of time in plants. So if there's a lot of plant matter in there for them to hang out in, they tend to gravitate to that and stay away from the fish. I don't usually have that issue with Amano shrimp, but it can happen. They kind of act like cleaner shrimp sometimes and will get up on fish and pull off things like pieces of their slime coat or whatever it is. But yeah, just give them more places to be on their own with more things to eat. They could just be hungry. You can also try sinking algae wafers for Amano shrimp. That might also help if the issue is food.
Cool. Nikki Astor says that the one who messaged us about the fungus, I have a natural remedy from Imagitarium. So just so you know that.
Cool.
Next up, how often should I change my top fin filter for a 37-gallon tank?
Probably. Again, it depends on your bio load, like how many fish you have in there and how often or how quickly that cartridge gets saturated. But when it comes to hang-on filters, they can go as quickly as 1 week and as far out as about a month. But by a month, they're usually absolutely horrendous. So just keep an eye on it. Filters like that will often start to back up with water a little bit as the pad becomes saturated. If you look at the pad, which used to be, I think they're blue. They're either blue or white, depending on the brand. If it just looks brown, either you got to throw it out or you got to give it a rinse and put it back in for the remainder. Never keep the same cartridge for longer than a month, in my opinion. And when you rinse cartridges out like that, it stretches the fabric on them a little bit, that filter flaws, so they work less efficiently. But yeah, month is the max cutoff. And I honestly, for a lot of cartridge style filters, I've done it as often as 1 week, depending on bio load.
Wow. Cool. Well, we made it officially to 100 likes.
You guys asked for it.
Yeah, that's it. You know what? I told you if I get to 100, I'm doing a podcast of these episodes as well. But you know what? I'm going to do it, but still try and come to the live streams. We'll podcast it after it all said and done. We'll come to the live streams still because we'd love to see you. But yes, podcast ho! We will do it. Yay! Awesome. Okay, awesome. Next up, another question about bullying.
Okay.
Any ideas on how to stop a blue paradise from being a bully? Tank mates are 2 plecos, 5 Danio zebras, 4 cherry barbs, 4 neon tetras, Geophagus, Surinamese, redfin shark, and a honey Gourami.
Gourami.
Jerome.
That's not spelled correctly. It's not your fault.
Yay. Also, I should have caught it.
Remove them. It's tough. When you have fish that are outwardly aggressive, there isn't a whole lot you can do to get them to stop. They're acting naturally with whatever temperament they naturally have. So although you might have one paradise fish that is a little easier going, let's say, and less aggressive, that is their natural temperament for that specific individual within that species. They're not all like that. Sometimes fish are just nasty. So in this situation, redecorating the tank or moving everything around probably won't do a whole heck of a lot. And that your only real option is to choose between that fish and the fish that it's picking on. And if it's picking on everyone, I think the decision's pretty clear. If it is, one-on-one, like the paradise fish and the honey gourami, you got to just choose. It's not, you can't go in there and be like, stop it.
We need to talk, guys.
Yeah, you can't police them, unfortunately. They just don't learn. Even if you stick a straw in there and try to shoo it away from the other fish every time it goes, it'll never learn from that.
Some people are just jerks.
Yes.
Like
me and the lack of donuts in Brian's life.
Yeah. Oh man. Let's. You know what, guys? I want to get that trending.
Hashtag
donuts for Brian. From now on, when you guys interact with us, make sure you put that there. And let's just keep reminding Thomas, donuts for Brian. All right. What's a guy got to do? Get his own donuts? That's not going to happen.
No.
How are you feeling for time? How are we doing? A couple more questions?
My voice is getting there.
Okay. We'll ask a few more here. So if you want to do the super chat, now's the time. Otherwise, we're going down the list for a couple more questions. Are dwarf blue neon gouramis still a good fish to keep?
Okay, so I know this is kind of... I've heard rumblings in the hobby that gouramis aren't what they used to be, that they're just genetically weaker from being line bred or inbred or whatever it is. I don't know how true that is. I'm sure all suppliers have their own kind of procedures for keeping bloodlines strong and not constantly breeding down the line, despite the fact that you can line breed fish for quite a while before it actually starts to affect them. They're not like humans or other species that are much more sensitive to inbreeding siblings and stuff. But I don't know. I see a lot of gouramis in a lot of tanks, and I've seen a lot of gouramis do fairly well. But I have heard rumblings, like I said, of gouramis just not holding up the way they used to, or falling susceptible to things like dropsy a lot easier, and stuff like that. So it's hard for me to say. Without a lot more research on the current state of affairs for gouramis, I couldn't give you a truly accurate answer.
Cool. Let's see here. What do you suggest for a red-eared slider turtle that won't bask, wants to stay in the water all the time?
It's not the worst thing if they're in the water all the time. Basking is important. If you have a UV light on the tank for shell growth and all that stuff, I wouldn't worry a whole heck of a lot about it. But if you don't, you might want to get one, just because sometimes the 2-in-1 basking lamps don't penetrate as well, because you've got them, like if you've got a basking lamp that also has UV in it, I got to be more specific, over top of a platform, then none of the UV gets to the water. If you have a UV fluorescent light on the top of the tank and a basking lamp, then some of the UV is always going to the water, so the turtle's still getting UV light. That would be my main concern. But a larger platform and a larger way to get out of the water if you think the turtle is just not able to get out. Maybe it's having a harder time. Are you observing it, like trying to get up and not really getting there, or maybe just resting on the ramp to the platform but not getting on top of it? Usually they kind of know what they need for themselves, and I don't worry too much about it. It's also possible the basking spot's just far too warm. So get a temp gun or a pair of thermometers and just double check water temp and basking temp, and see where you're at. Maybe you need to lower the temperature a bit. Maybe there's a reason he's not going up there. Anyways.
Cool. Last question, last one before we take off for the day. What's the best way to clean a brand new 55-gallon tank?
Water and paper towel, and just rinse it out.
Simple, huh?
Yep. Don't complicate it. No. Right from the manufacturer, there shouldn't be anything crazy in the tank. Even sitting at the store, your biggest problem is dust. So just a little bit of water and some paper towel, and you can get dust out. That's all I did with the 265, and that 265 had a lot of dust when I got it.
It did. I remember you cleaning that out. Actually, that was a process.
Yes, it was.
Actually, I think what we film, I think it's in the video,
Yeah.
like with you wiping it down. So go back and check out that 265 if you want to see some serious dust in the bottom of that tank.
Yeah, it was a doosty tank.
And it was a tall tank, so you were like, because it was already
30 inches tall.
It was already on the stand, I think, as well. So you
Yeah.
were like up on a stool, like reaching and trying to clean it. Oh man,
I got long arms, so
yeah,
it was
all
pretty
right,
easy for
but
me.
still.
Yeah.
All right, cool, guys. You know what? That about does it for us. Poor Thomas, who is not feeling well, his throat's starting to give out on him. The honey tea is pretty much gone now. So we want to thank you guys so much for joining us in the first place. It is awesome every 2 weeks, talking with you guys and interacting and getting to know the issues you guys are having, the fish use. I'm going to start saying fish use.
It's the best.
It's the
Hashtag fish use.
Yes. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate it. I know you dig it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love interacting with you guys. It's one of the most fun parts for me, which is why I try to be very active in the comment section on each video when you guys jump on those and watch them and comment. I love interacting with you. The React series is so much fun for me, and I think it's just great for everybody in general, seeing what everybody's up to. Yeah, I love it. It's the best.
It's really good. And so, guys, again, we appreciate everything you guys are doing. The more interaction and the more visits we get here, we might be able to start doing these again every week. I would love to, even when we're at your house shooting on a Saturday, we could easily go live for even half hour, 45 minutes, and just talk to you guys.
Absolutely.
So really, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you share it around because the more people that show up, the more we can do these. So everyone, by the way, thank you for your support. The donut support.
Yep.
Everyone here is saying donuts.
Yep.
Need more donuts.
Yeah.
Donuts help us scratch it. So listen, dude, that's it.
It's on me. Look, I do fish good. I don't do donuts good.
Fair enough.
That's not even donuts that are the problem. It's just my memory.
Next time we need more donuts. You guys are awesome. Okay, so all that said, 100K. 100,000 subs. When we get there, you guys are going to be very, very, very happy. So, again, anything you guys can do to share us around and grow our channel with us would be very helpful. Thank you to everyone who sent the super chats, by the way.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, those really, really help us. And again, will help us to justify doing these on a more regular basis. So, thank you to you guys. Hashtags trending already.
Donuts for Brian.
Amazing.
Benjamin P is on it.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. Okay, anything else you want to say?
No, it's just we got to keep on tanking, guys.
Got to keep on tanking. All right, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Have a great weekend.